It's time for the one and the only show. It's the Luke Howard Show, and guess what? It's live! Thank you very much, thank you. Oh, thank you very much for your round of applause. Good morning, everybody. Morning, and welcome to a brand new week of the one and the only show, the Luke Howard Show. Got a great week for you this week. Of course, though, there's a few changes to the show because we're going to be on from now on Monday to Friday. We're not going to be on at the weekends now because it gives me a nice little break over the weekend, we thought. So, yeah, so from this week we're going to be on Monday to Friday, and then once this is all over, which will hopefully be September and things are back to normal, then we shall be back to Saturdays at 10 a.m. Yay! I love Saturdays. Saturdays are brilliant doing this show. Absolutely amazing. So from September, hopefully, if this is all fine, then we shall all be back to normal from Saturdays, 10 a.m. till 10:45, and it will be live. That's after all of this is over. But for now, I'm here 5 days a week from now on to keep you all company. We thought 6 days, wow, it was so long. I enjoyed doing 6 days, I loved it, but they said to me, Luke, you've got to do 5 days, you can't do 6 days, because apparently it's too much. So, now, that's what they've said to me, it's too much, and apparently that's why I've got to do it. So now, we're doing 5 shows a week, Monday to Friday, and it's going to be great, okay? Nothing's going to be changed, it's just going to be still the same. But I'm going to be here throughout the summer, I think till around about mid-August. I think I shall be here until something like 7th of August. And then from the 7th of August, I'm going to be having, I think, either 2 weeks or 1 week off. We're not quite sure what it's going to be. I think it's going to be 1 to 2 weeks. Or it could actually be I think to Wednesday, mid-Wednesday week, I should think it'll be, and then I shall be off Thursday, Fridays, the 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th. I'm just thinking, and then should be back maybe on the 24th. We're not quite sure when. It could be Thursday. It could be like a week or to 2 weeks or something like that. We will let you know about that nearer the time. So, let's kickstart the show off today then, shall we? Of course, and this week with some right royal news. Now, there's been new pictures showing the Duke of Cambridge playing with his children that have been released to mark both Father's Day and the Duke's birthday. Because, of course, yesterday, how was your weekend, people? I mean, I know yesterday was Father's Day, and I'm sure Prince William had a great time. So there was a few pictures that were online about it. Now, I'm going to talk about it because one image shows that Prince William, who turned 38 on Sunday. This is a lovely story to talk about. Lovely story, because it's away from all what's going on at the moment, and it's nice to talk about these sort of things. So he turned 38 on last Sunday, and was being jumped on by Prince George, age 6. I think it was last Sunday he turned 38. Yeah, it was. And Charlotte 5 and Prince Louis 2. So another picture shows that the children posing with their father on a swing at Arner Hall on the Sandringham estate in Norfolk, which I know very, very well. I do know Sandringham House very well. I've been there millions and millions of times. It's in Norfolk, and it's a very nice place to visit. Now, both scenes were captured earlier in the month by the Duchess of Cambridge. William's birthday is the latest in what has been a busy birthday season for the royals since the UK went into lockdown due to COVID-19. Now, pictures also were taken by keen photographer Catherine and have been released to mark Charlotte and Louis's birthdays recently. Now, last month, new photography showed that the young princess is delivering homemade care packages to those in need, which sounds actually very, very, very nice. It sounds amazing. Wow. So Prince Louis was also pictured in April this year, making a colourful rainbow poster and a symbol of hope during this lockdown. The pair were also joined by their eldest brother George to join with the first clap to carers event back in March this year, and to applaud NHS staff and care workers, of course. So, Next bit. So William spoke about fatherhood. I think we're going to hear about this in a moment during BBC documentary on mental health. This was last month. Now, in an interview, he said having children was the biggest life and changing moment, and it was described fatherhood as a very, very difficult phrase of life to his younger days. Now, he was asked about becoming a father. He added, "I think when you've been through something traumatic in life, and that is like you say, your dad not being around. My mother dying when I was younger," he said, "your emotions come back in leaps and bounds because it's a very different place of life, and there is no one there too," he said, "I kind of helped you, and I definitely found it very at times overwhelming." So here is a video of him speaking on an interview.
Do you feel you're in a better place now?
Yeah, I became a dad in 2017 for the first time.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And it was the hardest time of my life. I found it really, really tough. And I grew up without my father, and I've not had a father to look up at, and now I've got a child looking up at a father, and I don't really know how I'm dealing with this, and I really struggled with my emotions at that time. That's something that I wanted to ask you as well. There's a lot of pressure, for so many dads and so many men across the country. When you're struggling, who do you go to? Where do you go?
Yeah, so I can relate to what you're saying, Marvin. Having children is, the biggest life-changing moment. It really is, and I agree with you. I think when you've been through something traumatic in life, and that is, like you say, your dad not being around, my mother dying when I was younger, your emotions come back in leaps and bounds because it's a very different phase of life, and there's no one there to kind of help you. And I've definitely found it very, at times overwhelming. Me and Catherine particularly, we support each other, and we go through those moments together, and we kind of evolve and learn together. But I do agree with you. I think emotionally, things come out of the blue that you don't ever expect, or that maybe you think you've dealt with. And so I can completely relate to what you're saying about children coming along. It's one of the most amazing moments of life, but it's also one of the scariest. Just say your dad will be very proud of you. He would. And I appreciate that. You'll make all the right decisions. I know you will. I can see the kind of man you are, and you're going to be absolutely fine. You'll be a great dad.
Prince Charles has also he marked Father's Day yesterday, writing on Twitter, "Wherever your father and dad, a daddy or a pa, wishing you a happy Father's Day." And the most featured on archive photograph of Charles was with his sons, William and the Duke of Sussex, in matching polo shirts. A second picture showed a young Charles being held by his father, the Duke of Edinburgh, back in the 50s. Now, Prince Philip and the Queen, who are both currently shielding at Windsor Castle, they've also celebrated birthdays recently, of course. The Queen made her first official public appearance since the lockdown began to mark her official birthday, which was last week, and I did watch that programme, and it was very interesting, actually, very, very interesting. And the Duke of Edinburgh, he posed with the Queen in an official photograph released 2 weeks ago as he turned, would you believe, 99? Yes, you heard me, 99 years old. So this time next year, he'll be 100 years old. So we will leave the news there. So let's go to Play by Putin now, because Voldemort Putin, he thinks that he can play Donald Trump like a fiddle. A former US National Secretary advisor has claimed this. So this is John Bolton, who has written a tell-all book about his time in the White House book. And about in the White House called The Room, where it happened, and he says that the American president is incompetent and unfit for office. In an expect from an interview with ABC News, scheduled to be broadcast yesterday, Mr. Bolton said that I think Putin was smart, tough, and I think that he sees that he's not faced with a serious advisor here. He said, I don't with a serious adversary here, and I don't think he's worried about Donald Trump. He said, of this former boss, I don't think that he's fit of office. I don't think he has the confidence to carry out the job. There really isn't any guiding person though that I was able to discern other than what's good for Donald Trump's re-election. He said in his book, Mr. Bolton claims that the president was unaware the UK was a nuclear power and thought that Finland was part of Russia. He backed China's confiscation of concentration camps for Muslims. He also brought help from China's China's leader, XI, limping to get reflected. Mr. Bolton resumed that meeting between Mr. Trump and the Chinese president in Osaka, Japan, writing he then streamingly turned the conversation to the coming US presidential election, alluding to China's economic capability to affect the origin campaigns, pleading with XI to ensure that he'd win. He added that he stressed the importance of farmers and increased China vegetables of soybeans, and what in the electoral outcome Mr. Bolton claimed from Mr. Trump, and saw controversies behind rocks, and it reminded streamingly unformed on how to run the White House. He said, "Let's down the huge federal government." He added that his former boss typically had one and only two individual briefings a week, and in most of those he spoke at greater length, and that the briefers often won matters completely unrelated to subjects at hand. The White House now has launched a legal action to prevent the book's publication, and Mr. Trump has reflected with fury to experts, what do they know, accusing Mr. Bolton of releasing classified information. We say that but experts, what do they know, every single day on the show. I mean, I always say it because I'm always talking about experts. Now, he tweeted that Bolton's book, which is getting terrible reviews, is a complementation of lies and made up stories all intended to make me look bad. He said, "Many of the critics' statements be attributed to me," he said, "and were never made pure fiction," and he was just trying to get even for flooring him like the sick puppy he is. And Mr. Bolton, who quit as security advisor last year, he refused to testify in the House of Representatives and Impeachment Inquiry, and threatened to sue if subpoenaed, but he offered to testify in the subsequent Senate trial, and the publication-controlled Senate did not take Mr. Bolton up on his offer, and Democrats were angry that Mr. Bolton saved his revelations for the book, and rather than participate in the probe. Now, Adam Schiff, who led the impeachment inquiry, accused Mr. Bolton of being unpatriotic for withholding information, and he will continue to hold Trump accountable and work to expose his abuse and corruption, he said. So we're talking about one more story then now, shall we? Okay, so the Supreme Court has blocked a bid to target young migrants. Now, Donald Trump's attempt to end legal protections for 650,000 immigrants who arrived as children the other day, and thwarted by the US Supreme Court. Now, the justices were voted by 5-4 against axing the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program started in 2012 under Barack Obama, which the president say that he's illegal, and it means the immigrants known as dreamers will for now retain protection from deportation and freedom to work. Now, the court said it had not ruled on whether DNCA was a good policy or not, but blocked Mr. Trump for failing to give a responsive inclusion of why it should end. Questions such as what, if anything, to do about the hardship to DNCA recipients had not been addressed, and said that Chief Justice John Roberts and he has his 4 liberal colleagues united to block Mr. Trump, while the court for conservative justice all said that DACA should be allowed to finish the president's administration and can attempt to overturn the ruling. But in Austin, Texas, DACA beneficial Cesar Expression said that we'll keep living our lives in this meantime, of course. So, okay, just one very, very, very quick other story there, because Harry Dunn's parents have won permission to sue Dominic Raab for obstruction of justice over the death of their son last year. The High Court will decide in October if the Foreign Secretary and let Anne Scackles claim demonic immunity and return to the US after she allegedly killed Harry, 19, in a car crash. This was actually in Northamptonshire, and so of course there we go. So one very quick story I actually do want to talk about is campaigners' fight on UK roads goes. So the battle to remove a statue of Victorian Emperor Cecil Rhodes, which I know very well, from Oxford University is not over. Now, campaigners have warned that Oriel College's governors have voted for the the image above its entrance on Oxford High Street to be taken down, but say contractors will be needed because of planning and regulations. An independent commission of inquiry will also be launched to examine the legacy of the diamond magnate who exploited workers in his African mines, and in his will set up international Oxford scholarships, Motherable Welsh and founding members of the Rhodes Must Fail campaign. And there was a sense of guided collaboration among the visitors, and who feel regularly vindicated after thousands attended protests. But the South African author and musician who studied for his doctorate at Oxford, he warned that the college had acted in bad faith before.